Okay, so John, it's a big subject.
I've known John for 25 years, maybe even longer. It's an amazing range of philanthropy, a unique range that he's achieved over that period. Just on the artistic side, he's been incredibly involved with the Tate, incredibly involved with their various projects.
I think what's brilliant about John is that he supports, he takes a long-term view. He supports projects that are going to have a tangible long-term benefit.
John and Genesis are really important in the arts ecology. They identify people that are expert in their field and then they just really back them. So they support the experts in taking the risks which enable emerging artists to flourish.
In 10 or 20 years' time, almost every theatre director who has come through the mainstream of London theatre particularly will have been enabled by John.
The great thing about John Studzinski is not just that he's a generous friend and patron, but that he's a loyal and a long-term friend and patron. And for institutions, that changes the world. He's been a friend that the museum can rely on, and that's the best kind of friend, the best kind of sponsor.
I think we've worked in, well, I know we've worked in well over 70 countries and well over 40 languages, and with hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds of writers, young, emerging writers.
Being part of the International Playwrights Program at the Royal Court has opened my mind to what theatre can be and what writing for theatre can be, and has given me a new perspective on writing and theatre making. And it's been really inspirational as a journey, and it's continuing to feed into my work as a theatre maker from Lebanon.
I don't think I would have been a playwright if it weren't for the Royal Court and if it weren't for the Genesis, where I was able to explore issues and form with total freedom in a way I couldn't have in India. But more than that, I think I am today a mentor to a lot of women playwrights in India.
John has a very personal and passionate approach to his support for the arts. He comes at that from both a business and strategic perspective, but also as a collector and a lover of culture.
John and I have had an amazing collaboration over the last 10 years. His Genesis Foundation has helped the 16 in many ways, and indeed the world of music in general.
John's philanthropy is unique. He's a great humanitarian, as well as a great champion of the arts, and sometimes that love of humanity and love of music and the other arts merge together in some of the special projects that he's pursued. I think his commissioning of My Stabat Mater grew out of those humanitarian and indeed spiritual concerns.
I and the Catholic community benefit in particular from this work, because he has enabled fresh expression to be given to some of the most profound themes of Catholic belief and devotion.
From the first time I suggested to John that he support the way we wanted to work with young directors, he got it, he understood, and he also understood that the best thing for us would be long-term support, and he's really followed through. John sees in the long term and acts in the long term, and once he backs you, really stays with you.
The support that I've received from John and the Genesis Foundation has meant that I can go away to London and study acting, which growing up is something that I would never have thought possible.
And everyone must be on the stage, anyone with something to offer. John sees that. He's got a very wide and instinctive spectrum for what a person has to give to the world.
In the visual arts, for us, we work with very young artists and they're not recognised at the point that we're working with them. Their work is often strange and unfamiliar, and I think for John to support that work is really, really important.
Thank you, John, for refreshing the great connection between deep Catholic devotion and music.
Well, you are fighting the good fight. May you continue to fight the good fight, fight for the arts, fight for people like us, these quiet voices across the world who need to be heard.
Without Genesis, without John, the Young Vic would be an entirely different place from what it is today.
People discovered that they were writers, that they were artists. And I think through John and through Genesis, we've given them a voice and the power to create a life in which they can be a creative artist.
There are very, very few people in the country and the world who do this kind of philanthropy.
He doesn't just do things at arm's length. You know, he's in there with the mud on his boots. It's not a vision that I can easily see of John with mud on his boots, but you know what I mean.